All right. So welcome everyone to the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign webinar. Today is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. And thank you all for joining from around the world. Today we're going to have a webinar featuring educators and students talking about greenings and tree height and all those great green things, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. We're having green down right now. In the Southern Hemisphere, there's having green up right now. So we're going to talk today with our friends at the European Phenology Campaign. The team there is going to discuss some things, some importance about greenings, the science of greenings, and then we're going to have some presentations, hopefully with no technological issues, but as you know, they do arise. But we have two schools here, and I'm not going to pronounce these correctly, but I'm going to try. We have and both are from the Czech Republic. We have the primary school Pist and primary school Hradec, Kralove, Stefcova. It's probably way off, but I tried. So we're going to jump into a quick introduction, and then we're going to go to Dr. Christopher Schumann on our campaign team to discuss some trees in the news, and then we're going to go to the featured presentation, starting with primary school Pist. So let's get started. Once again, here's our core campaign team. Okay, I won't say everyone, but everybody's part of the webinar today. But these are the contacts here that, if you have any questions about the campaign, find us any way you can with any questions about the campaign, how to join, how to take observations, looking at the data, doing data analysis, things like that, using the Globe visualization system, advanced data access tool to grab the data for your students as well. And if you're students who are part of this campaign, thank you for coming to the webinar today. We hope you enjoy the presentations and what we're going to be discussing today featuring greenings. Quickly, here's our metrics. I'm going to skip to the bottom here. Our full campaign has been running since September 15, 2018. That coincided with the launch of the Ice Cloud and Land Elevation Satellite 2, or ICET-2 satellite from the Vandenberg Air Force Base in California in the United States. And that satellite measures the height of things on the planet, including trees and tree canopies. So since we started the campaign, you can see we have lots of tree height, land cover, and greenings measurements. Over 52,000 measurements have come in during the life of the campaign so far. And these have came in from 22,676 global sites. So that is a lot of amazing data. So bottom line here is that's a lot of data students can use for their IVSS projects. Here's what it looks like on a map. There's a lot going on, okay? There's land cover photos, there's tree height photos, there's where all the locations are, where all these observations are taken from. So that's a lot of data during the campaign. Now we show this because this year, this school year, and then focusing on the spring IVSS for Globe, we're focusing on the data literacy, data analysis, that type of thing, because a lot of people during the pandemic aren't allowed or aren't supposed to go outside and take observations, depending upon their location. They might have been in quarantine, things might have been shut down. So we're really focusing a lot on, with this campaign for this year, year 3, we're focusing on the data. So there's lots of data coming in from all areas. And you can see as part of this campaign, we've had a bunch of webinars. We've had 26 webinars for the campaign so far, plus 3 special ones. And these special ones were, one was a live from the NASA Goddard Studio, and there have been a couple ones with our partners, the European Phenology Campaign, that we've had over the last couple months. We have participants from 52 countries that are active in this campaign. So you can see we have lots of great activity going on from across the world, from across the Globe community. And then if you want to check out the blogs from the campaign page, we have 36 blogs up there right now that's closing in on 100,000 views. So very great information on the blogs. So check that out. Quickly, with the year 3, we have what's a scaffold structure. And if you look all the way at the top, we're in the September through November timeframe where we're focusing on the science. Okay, we had webinars already. We had one, we're having webinars on the tree height. Today we're having greenings, and then in the next couple months we're going to have one on the carbon cycle and land cover. So we're focusing on the science right now, and then we're going to move on, in December into January, on taking that science and making it understandable for helping to plan the student research as part of the campaign. And then we're going to focus the third quarter on what was that research that was submitted to places like the United States SRS or the Globe International IVSS. And then at the end of year 3, June through August, we're going to focus on a workshop. It's going to be a 1 to 2 day workshop where we're going to have scientists, citizen scientists, students, educators, NASA personnel, campaign teams, all presenting different things that they've learned throughout, not just this year, but throughout the first 2 years of the campaign as well. So stay tuned for all this. You can find all this information on the website. We're continuing the collaborations with other Globe campaigns, of course. European Phenology Campaign, we've been working hand in hand with them. It's been great. They're presenting today at our webinar. We presented several things at their past webinars. The last one was From Leaves to Satellites. That was a great campaign webinar last week. And then the one before that, a few weeks before that, was all about phenology. So we're really focusing on how we can focus on the importance of taking tree height observations at the same time you take greening observations, because taking those multiple observations at the same time in the same location is super vital for helping us understand how all these measurements interact with each other and how our Earth works as a system. We're also working with the Urban Heat Island Effect Surface Temperature Field Campaign, looking at the land surface temperature in the shaded area and the non-shaded area of trees in urban areas, neighborhoods, places like that. And the Globe Mission Mosquitoes, looking at the potential for when you're taking a tree height observation, if you happen to notice there's mosquito tree holes, these areas that can hold water in the trees that might serve as potential mosquito habitats, and taking an observation of mosquito habitat when you're taking a tree height observation. So we're really focusing on that data, taking observations, multiple observations in the same location at the same time with these collaborations with other Globe campaigns. Right now, I want to pass it over to Dr. Christopher Schumann. He is our subject matter expert for our campaign and the lead for the Trees in the News section. So I will pass it over to Dr. Schumann.
Thanks, Brian. It's good to be back with you all. And let's see, it looks like part of that slide is clipped off, Brian.
Oh. I see it as full on my screen, not sure.
All right. Peter, maybe you can confirm you see it full screen? The lower picture is clipped off where I'm seeing it.
I do see a little bit. Yeah, you're right.
Maybe, well.
Let's try this here.
Yeah.
Is that any better?
Try full screen again, because it looks like it's right. Well, there's our first technological issue.
Yeah, right. Oh, let's go back here.
Yeah, all right. It is what it is. We'll be missing some content, but
sorry about that. Not sure.
Hopefully not much. So in part because we're visiting with our European colleagues today, this seems very appropriate to celebrate France's most recent national park. And it's dedicated to forests. Seemed like a natural subject for us to share quickly. This park is officially about 1 year old from November 2019, and is rather special because it's, first of all, this forested area has existed pretty much untouched since the Middle Ages, in part because the subsoil, the substrate, and the soil in the area is not particularly good for farming. So it's been pretty much left alone to grow wild and to help with migrating species. And it has quite a few interesting plants and animals that are kind of unique to this particular area east of Paris, a few hours. So go to the next slide, Brian. All right, that one looks like it's showing up properly. Okay, so that gives you a pretty good idea. That little yellow box is the area where we'll see some data from Landsat. That is another way of looking at trees, especially trees going back almost 50 years. And so that is where we will zoom over to shortly. And just to give you a sense of where it is in Europe, not that far from quite a few other countries. So hopefully someday you'll get to visit. I know I'd like to. It looks like a special place. Now we'll go to the next slide. The darker green outline area is the various parcels which form the actual Parc National des Forêts de Champagne et Bourgogne. You're not the only one who can struggle with a foreign language, Brian. And this is especially sad because French is actually a language spoken by several of my immediate family. So I'm very sad to, shall we say, not be so deft. So at any rate, that dark green area is, the box shown here is slightly larger than the area we'll see in the first Landsat image on the next slide. The little scale bar gives you a sense of just how broad this area is. It's a pretty good sized park in an area that has some, transportation corridors and whatnot nearby, and we'll see some of that in the Landsat imagery. Next slide, Brian. So there it is in 1972. The total park, well, the total image area is about 53 by 40 kilometers. And it's a natural color composite because one of the 4 bands that Landsat 1's multispectral scanner collected was very noisy. So I had to play around with the 3-band composite to make this forest look green. The farming areas look oddly dark, and you'll see that compared to the next slide when we get a thematic mapper image. Next slide, Brian. In 1985. And so basically you can see the contrast between the farming areas, the urban, or the towns and villages through the area are really, really strongly highlighted here. And so it's just this marvelous, expanse of dense green coverage from August of 1985. And we'll jump ahead another 10 years or so to Landsat 7, 2002. There are some differences in the sensitivity of the natural color bands between Landsat 5 and Landsat 7. And basically you can see some slight changes in the color of green. The lighter color green is areas that have been harvested for their timber. So while this is going to become a park, it is supporting the local economy throughout this entire time frame. And we'll jump ahead one more to the most recent image. And you can see quite possibly even more of those lighter green areas within the denser dark green area that becomes the park in November of 2019. So there is a small chance that someone studying this area would be able to document that the harvesting of timber sort of accelerated as the park became closer and closer to becoming a reality. And that is the nature of humans living with their ecosystem. There is this give and take. But we'll summarize the story here, I think, on the next slide. Yeah, there we go. France's 11th national park, 3 hours east of Paris. A unique lowland leafy forest ecosystem. I'm really sorry I haven't had a chance to get there, but maybe someday. 50 million trees, 240,000 hectares in area, and the goal being sustainable tourism, at least before the COVID crisis hit. It'll be hard to say what the impact is on the park, just like it's been hard to predict what the impact has been on us taking new data sets. But please take a look at some of the websites that are shared here and take a little virtual trip to Eastern France and enjoy the fact that a new national park has been formed, focusing particularly on a forest. So I think that's all I have to share, Brian. If anybody has any questions, I can try to take them.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Schumann. So does anybody have, Peter, are there any questions in the chat or any comments, or if anybody would like to ask one to Dr. Schumann about this?
I don't see any comments yet.
All right. Okay.
Great.
Feel free to add any comments into the chat or questions into the chat, and we can answer them in the chat, or we're going to have a larger Q&A at the end of the webinar today. We're also going to have a Q&A after each one of the presentations, one after the school presentations as well, and the European Phenology Campaign team. All right, so today's featured talk, students and teachers from Czech Republic. And that's shareable that you've seen before. And I hope I got these locations right on the map or pretty close. So we're going to start off with presentation one, and let's all make the students and their teacher feel comfortable here presenting. I know there may be some nerves involved here, but we're informal here, so we're excited that you're going to do a presentation today. So we're going to talk, at first it's going to be primary school Pist with their presentation on the phenological project. And I'm going to stop sharing, and whoever has that presentation on their end can go ahead and share their screen. And Lenka, maybe can you communicate with the, oh yeah, hello.
Hello. In Pist, can you hear us now?
It looks like, yeah, they're sharing it now. All right.
Sdílet tu prezentaci.
Vidíme vaši prezentaci, je to úplně perfektní, můžete klidně začít povídat.
Dej nahoru, tak a jo.
Good afternoon. We are researchers from the Czech Republic, from a small village nearby Ostrava. My name is Linda, this is Veronica, hi. And this is Kate. Hello. And we would like to introduce our phenological project.
Můžu se zeptat, vidíte, jak klikáme na ty obrázky?
Vidíme, krásně se všechno poslouchá.
We have chosen this project because we were working on it 2 years ago. The object of our research was a cherry tree. We like to observe the changes of the tree during a whole year. This year we decided to add more trees to compare their changes with. We are observing birch, chestnut. We are observing birch, chestnut, cherry tree, sakura cherry, and hazel. Besides our phenological project, we will also try to connect with a school from Slovakia. And here's how has been our project going so far. At the end of September, we started taking pictures of the trees for the database and started to observe the leaves coloring with application Grow Up. We like to observe we try to measure the height of the tree with a clinometer. The first try wasn't successful, and the second one was. While photographing, we thought about how the leaves change. And so this is how our research question appeared. The research question sounds: Do leaves closer to tree trunk turn yellow sooner than on the outside of tree? And our hypothesis is leaves on the outside of tree turn yellow sooner than leaves closer to tree trunk. We hope that our research will be realized and COVID won't destroy it. Thanks for your attention, and we look forward to next meeting.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It looks like you were looking at a bunch of different trees, you know, over time, looking at green up versus green down. So excellent. I have one question for you, and then we can take some more questions. What did you feel was difficult using the clinometer when you were trying to use it the first time?
Takže zapomněli jsme změřit tu délku.
Bylo to jednoduché, jenomže my, když jsme si to nastudovali, tak jsme měřili úhly, zaměřili jsme se, Leni, prosím, překlady, jo. Zaměřili jsme se na úhel a zapomněli jsme měřit délku toho stromu, tak proto byl ten první neúspěšný, jo.
Okay, so I will translate now. The trouble was actually that the students, they measured the ankle, but they forgot to measure the distance between them and the tree, so they missed this value and therefore weren't able to
Bylo to pro nás úplně, no, byla to novinka pro nás, jo, ještě jsme s tím nikdy neměřili, tak možná proto ta chyba. Jako.
So it was something completely new for the students. It was their first try, so yes, this was the first trying with first mistakes, but as I understood before, the second try was already fine. Is it? Podruhé už se vám to podařilo, že jo? Yes. Okay, so the second try was already working well.
That's great.
We have another. I was gonna say we have another question, Brian, from Valerie. She asked, "Was there anything that surprised you in your observations of the trees in different seasons?"
Jestli vás něco překvapilo při těch pozorováních?
No tak jak se ty stromy měnily, jakože to bylo takové zajímavé. Protože jednou tam byly jakože květy na těch stromech a potom jakože zase třeba byl sníh, tak to bylo zasněžené a jako třeba ty podzimní listy nebo takhle. To se takhle měnilo.
No upřímně nás překvapilo, že se začínají měnit ty barvičky daleko od toho kmene. Jo? Já jsem si představila, že když na to svítí sluníčko, tak se to bude měnit jako později, jo? Že tam bude hodně toho chlorofilu. A překvapilo mě, že je to právě naopak. A ono záleží asi ještě i na druhu stromu, protože každý ten strom žloutne jinak. Takže teď, když chodíme, tak pozoruju různé stromy. Některé třeba ta bříza je pořád zelená, ale třeba ty, já nevím, dub už máme skoro žlutý u nás. Takže jo, hodně nás to překvapilo.
Okay. Okay, so there were several things that were surprising actually, and one of them was that the trees were changing differently in different conditions. So sometimes the leaves would be even covered by snow, but still leaves on the tree, and other time they would be fallen. So the different timing, and also different timing between the different tree species. So actually the team now, when they walk outside, they are really aware of the different trees around them and observing which tree is already greening down and which not. So this was a interesting moment for the whole team. And another interesting thing, or also the question was the difference between greening down of trees that are at the end of branches and in the middle of the tree. So they actually expected the leaves outside of the tree or at the end of the branches to be falling down and changing colors slower, because the sun is shining on them, and mainly because the sun is shining on them, but it's the other way around. So this was a big surprise, and it was the research question as well to answer.
Excellent. We have another question from Dana, and she asked, how did you guys go about finding a school in Slovakia to cooperate with?
Aha. Takže další otázka je, jak jste objevili školu, se kterou spolupracujete, slovenskou školu?
To nám bylo doporučeno. Terezo, vy jste nás přímo vybrali a budeme pozorovat společný strom v řízu. Takže v rámci toho projektu byla nám přidělena.
Aha.
Ale ještě teda, jako zatím jsem psala mail, ale nepřišla ještě odpověď. Jo? Takže čekáme na odpověď.
So this is actually the way how the phenology campaign work. And in the phenology campaign, the schools are who decide to cooperate together. They apply for, or they let us know in the campaign that they want to cooperate, and we, as the organization team, choose school from another country and help the schools to exchange contact, to get together and to start cooperating. So this is actually the same case. So for the team from Pist school, they decided to join the collaboration group, and they received the contact of a school in Slovakia. And they started the cooperation, but they don't have a reply from the Slovakian school yet.
Jsme rádi, že to byla škola ze Slovenska, že si budeme rozumět.
And there is actually a benefit, because Czech Republic and Slovak Republic, the language in both countries is pretty much similar, so it's gonna be a bit easier for the both teams to work together, because there will not be such a language barrier.
Understood. Well, with that, I want to say, Veronica, Linda, Kate, you guys did a fabulous job. We want to commend you. We understand it can be a little difficult to speak in public, especially when it's your second language, but you guys did a great job, and you have a very lovely town. The picture looked amazing. So thank you for participating today. So Brian, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Peter. So let's go to the second presentation, and that is primary school, Hradec, Kralove, Stefcova. Yeah, I'm trying. So if we could we have them present and share your screen, and we'll get started with that presentation. And then we'll have some question and answer after that as well. But yes, thank you, primary school Pist, for your presentation. And keep up the good research.
Thank you.
Já si také přidávám díky za krásnou prezentaci. I was just adding my thanks in Czech language. And Silvo, prosím, máme vás? Slyšíte nás? Tým Silve Balcarové.
Dobrý den. Yes, hello for everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, we are from the Czech Republic, from Hradec, Kralove, from the elementary school. Hradec Kralove is a big and nice city. Our school is big too. We have about 800 people. Papils teda. Tak.
At our school, we do many science projects.
For the third year, our school is involved in the GOLD program. Last year, we really enjoyed the award ceremony.
For the third year, we are working for European Phenology Campaign. We observe lime, hazel, and peach in our school garden.
We measured the height of the trees with a kilometer.
In spring, we observe when buds burst open at the beginning of the growing season. At least twice a week, we measure the size of the leaves.
In autumn, we observe colors of the trees. We take pictures with grow up too.
We share our results and pictures with other schools in the school collaboration group. We cooperate with the school from Lithuania during school year 2018-2019. This year, we are going to cooperate with school from Switzerland, Croatia, and Ukraine. We would like change data, photos, change emails, or arrange Zoom or Google Meet meeting. We share our results and the discussion forum too. We hope that we will go to school, but COVID situation is not good in our country. Thank you for your attention.
Sorry about it. Let me unmute myself. First off, great job. You guys did a fabulous job. Like I said, we understand it's difficult to speak in another language. I could not present and anything other than English. So outstanding job. We have a couple of questions from our chat box. One of them is from Petra. And they ask, do we have to measure leaf on our tree, or have we, or are we going to look at the color changes? If that makes sense. So do you measure leaves on trees, or do you measure the color changes? How do you go about making measurements?
Jestli chcete pomoct, tak otázka zní tak, že jestli měříte na podzim i délku listů, nebo jenom barevnou změnu jejich, nebo sledujete jenom, jak se ty listy barevně proměňují.
Jenom barevnou změnu.
So in the autumn, students only observe the color change of leaves and the time when the leaves fall down.
And then I had a question. How big is your group? Is your research group? How many students are in that group?
Další otázka je, jak velká je vaše skupina? Kolik vás je? Kolik studentů společně pozoruje a měří?
About 16 pupils from the 9th class and about 20 pupils from the 8th class. Like maybe about 30 pupils from our school.
Takže je to dohromady, teď se omlouvám, 30 studentů tedy, že jo, téměř 30 studentů, je to skupina skoro there's almost 30 students from the whole school, divided into two groups. They are from two different classes, so there are like 15 students from one class and nearly 20 students from the other class.
A large group there. And this is your first year being in Globe? How do you like the program?
No, it's not the third year.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then another question would be,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Třetí rok.
So third year.
For a year.
So how do you like being a part of the program for that 1 year?
Velice se mi to líbí, mě to i docela baví.
So the students, they like it, and yeah, they have fun while doing the Globe program activities.
And then a follow-up question would be, in the future, it seems like you're going to work with some other countries. What do you expect to find with those other countries, considering they're probably in different regions of Europe?
Takže další otázka je, že plánujete spolupracovat tedy s různými zeměmi, nebo spolupracujete s různými zeměmi. Co vlastně od toho očekáváte? Co myslíte, že vám tady ta spolupráce dá, nebo co byste chtěli prostě společně s nimi zjistit, nebo z té spolupráce získat?
Porovnávat data a porovnávat data, vyměňovat obrázky a to všechno.
Aha, takže porovnávat data a vyměňovat obrázky.
Stejný den, ty stromy, abychom se sjednotili na stejný den, abychom to měli jednodušší.
Yeah, so the students would like to mainly to compare and exchange data, and as well as the pictures from the observation, and they would like to start doing the measurements always on the same day, so that it's easier to compare, to find the system how to measure at the same times or same days to be able to compare the results pretty well.
All right, well, once again, thank you very much for your presentations, guys. You guys did an amazing job. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brian. And thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation. And quickly, one question I had for you guys. Do you hope that future students at your school will be able to continue the research that you've been doing?
Aha, tak je tu ještě jedna otázka, a to jestli si myslíte, že studenti, kteří vlastně budou po vás v dalších ročnících, budou schopní nebo ochotní navázat na tu vaši práci a pokračovat v tom stejném pozorování.
My si myslíme, že ano.
Určitě už sedmáky zacvičuje, dneska byli poprvé odezírat barvičky listů, takže aby byli deváťáci nahraženi, tak určitě bude pokračovat s těmi nižšími ročníky.
Yes, the team, they are sure to that this will happen, and they are actually doing some preparation steps for that. So the ninth grade is now already teaching the students from the 7th grade. So they go together outside, and the lower grade students, they already learn how to observe the leaf color change so that they can continue the observation later on.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, that really helps us to, everyone to understand a little better just how things are changing over time when you have that longer time series of information, of data. So yeah, thank you so much. And, we're glad to hear that's what's happening. Okay.
Bye.
Moc děkujeme. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Lenka, would you like to present a little bit about greenings? I thought I'd give the schools a chance to do it first, but I know some had to drop off. Some have to drop off. So, yep.
Okay,
thank you.
Sure. So I will try to follow up, and I'll try to share my screen. Okay. I hope you can see it now.
Yes, looks good.
Good. Okay, thanks a lot. Let's hope if it goes for the, yeah, okay. Yeah, so hello to everyone. Hello again. My name is Lenka Kleger, and I am the coordinator of a GLOBE program, European Phenology Campaign. I work in the GLOBE program Europe and Eurasia Regional Coordination Office, where we coordinate this campaign. It is actually not like a worldwide campaign. It's really focused mainly for the region of Europe and Eurasia. And in my presentation, I would first tell you a bit about what actually is phenology and what is the importance of doing the phenology observations. And then I would like to introduce a bit the phenology campaign. You have already heard a lot about it from the students, so just to tell you a little bit more. So basically phenology, you see here a lot of pictures, and the reason is that phenology is actually something that we can see around us. It's something that we all do know, even though we probably do not know the word, or maybe not know the word phenology. It is one of the oldest sciences, and it focuses on the changes of living organisms, on their seasonal changes that are related or based on the external conditions, mainly on the climatic changes in the environment. So these pictures, these are all examples of some phenology changes, like when in the spring trees start blooming, or the snowdrops start blooming. I think many of us know this, or this very known example of hibernating bears, that when the temperature goes down, the bears go to hibernate. So these are all examples. And I just want to show you one specific example that also shows how phenology was always in history related to human activity. So this is a graph of observation of blooming of sakuras in Japan. And this is actually really long time observation, starting like 800 years or 1,200 years ago. And we see the curve, how what is the time of the starting of bloom. It's very important for Japanese people. It's part of their culture, of their celebration. So it was always very important for them to know when the sakura start blooming. And on this example, we can see one very important thing, that you can see always the sakura started to bloom in like beginning of April or later April to May, and slowly until now the date of blooming is earlier and earlier. So it changes, it shows us some trend, and this is one importance of phenology. So it shows us the trend of seasonal changes, of changes of timing and length of vegetation seasons, which help us to understand also how our planet is changing, and how the climate change is starting. What you could also get from when you observe such a change of, or the start of blooming of cherries. So when you look from agricultural point of view, you could by knowing the phenology, by having the phenology observation, you could find out when you can harvest the cherries, or where you could use some pesticides to protect them from some insects, for example. You could also learn how to, when to go to Japan to see the blooming of sakuras. So it's important also for tourism, for planning of tourism, for planning of agriculture. But it's also important for medicine. Like there's important information when some species start to bloom, when people who suffer with pollen allergies should be careful, and not to go to observe the cherry tree. So these are all importances of phenology observations. And there are many more, but this is just to point out. And so this is actually what we do in the European Phenology Campaign. We observe how tree species change throughout the year. And the campaign has always, every year there are two parts of the campaign. One of them is in the spring, when students focus on bud burst observation. So they come to visit their tree, they select a tree, they come to visit the tree, and watch how the buds on the tree are swelling and burst open. And after that, they measure the leaves until the leaves stop growing. And all these data are being recorded, written down, and shared through a globe database, so that also other schools, other students can use them, or that these data are available also to the scientists. There's also a great possibility to get the data from the database and visualize them into the graphs that schools can download and exchange when they cooperate in the collaboration groups, such like the student groups now mentioned. And in the campaign, there are each spring 5 activities that help schools to go through the observation and actually to know what to do, how to pick a tree, how to choose the leaves for the observations properly. The autumn part is quite similar, but instead of observing the buds and length of the trees, students follow the color change of leaves. On the right hand side, you can see a color chart that is used for it. And so students come, they visit a tree and they see which is the color from the color chart, which is the closer to the actual color of the leaf. And they write it down and again share it through the globe database. And here in the middle, you can see example of the graph. So this is how it looks. This is what you get when you enter the data into the globe database and use the visualization system. And this observation in autumn continue until all the leaves, all the observed leaves fall down. There are only 3 activities in autumn because it's a shorter period. And we are very happy in the European Phenology Campaign that we could start the cooperation with Trees Around the Globe campaign, that we could also contribute to the activities on the campaign and organize all the great webinars together. And we believe it's very important to do all these observations and measurements together. So not only to observe the phenology change of the tree, but also to focus on the tree height, because it's very important to tell us about very important indicator to tell us about the ecosystem ability, the ecosystem ability to grow trees, to tell us about the carbon exchange in the forest or in the locality, if there is a carbon intake or release. And also by measuring the tree, we can see how the tree grows over the time, how the height of the tree changes. And of course, it's also a great possibility how to learn something more about the tree. So until the spring, students focus mainly on phenology observations, but this autumn, for the first time, we added a new activity where we ask school to measure the height of the tree. And we believe this is something very interesting for the student teams as well to try. One more thing I want to mention about the phenology campaign, and students have talked about it already, is the collaboration. So there are several ways how to collaborate within the phenology campaign. One of them is the discussion forum, where students share their results and their pictures. All the members of the campaign can see this. Once it's posted to the forum, it comes by email to everyone, so the community knows what's going on in different parts of Europe. And the other way is a collaboration group of schools, where schools that decide to collaborate with partner from abroad let us know, and we find for them a suitable school that observes the same tree and has a similar age, similar old students. And we help them to get together and provide them some inspiration for the activities that they can do together. Schools are very active in this, and they really get in touch, they exchange the results, and they learn what are the differences between the seasons and the tree greening down in different parts of Europe. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. If you want to know more about the campaign, please go to the Globe website and go there you can search or find between the collaborative activities, you can find European Phenology Campaign site. And I would like to also invite you to go there, get inspiration, and also to see the webinars that we are planning together for this autumn later on. Thank you very much. And thank you, Brian, and all the Trees Around the Globe team for having us here, for inviting us to talk at this webinar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Lenka. Yeah, what Lenka talked about is so important, understanding phenology and green up, green down, and, why it matters to our planet to observe these changes, seasonally, even off season, just observe these things. Yeah, the European Phenology Campaign is an amazing campaign, and we're hoping that a lot of the schools in the United States and other countries outside of Europe will start doing taking a lot of observations using green up, green down and the carbon cycle. So, the European Phenology Campaign is really, at the forefront of taking these observations, showing students how to take these greenings observations for green up and green down. So we're hoping that'll translate to a lot of the other countries in the GLOBE program to start taking these observations, because they are such a vital observation to be able to analyze, over time, to help us understand things just a little bit better. So, and adding those together with, and compiling those measurements with the tree height and the land cover, and anything, soil moisture, surface temperature, air temperature, all those things together paint that great picture of seeing how our planet functions as a system and how we look at change over time. So thank you so much for that. Are there any questions from that presentation? Please feel free to put some in the chat if you'd like.
There's a question, Brian.
All right.
Petra from Croatia. She asked, where did that question go? I think it popped back up. Hold on one moment. In the autumn time frame, how many times do they have to measure their tree? Do they do that just once, or do they do it multiple times?
Mm-hmm. We ask schools to measure the tree at least once. So if you want to repeat the observation, it's definitely a good idea, and we encourage you to do that. But it is not necessary to do it. We will appreciate if you at least once go and measure the tree height. Only what is important to know, you should repeat the measurement. Once you do it, like, you should repeat at the same time, like 3 times, to see if your measurement was really correct. It might happen that you don't measure the distance properly, or yeah, there might be some minor differences when measuring, which give you a bit different results. So to get an average result or the most proper result, you should repeat the measurement once you do it.
We have another question from Valerie. She, like the rest of us, think your program is wonderful, by the way. So she asked, do you have or use any cultural connections with trees, such as stories or historical examples to inspire students?
Mm-hmm. From like the organization team, we haven't done it so far so much, but we have a great example from Malta, and I know that Ramona Mercieka from Malta is here with us, so she might be able to add a bit to it. Because this spring, when the COVID pandemic closed all the schools and pushed us to be inside, not outside measuring our trees. So in Malta, they found out a great way how to actually continue the cooperation and continue the campaign activities. So they focused on the culture and all the history, and even on the culinary side because they observe fig trees mainly in Malta. So on the culinary side, on using the fig fruit in the recipes and cooking and baking, and drawing pictures with information in different languages also with the partner countries. So yeah, Malta is a great example of bringing the new spirit and new ideas to the phenology research.
Hello, Lenka.
Hello, Ramona.
Hi. If you want, yes, I can add maybe 2 sentences. Yes, because we started this collaboration through the Phenology Campaign. It was our 2nd year in my case. I met the coordinator from Israel during the regional meeting last year in Trieste, and we decided to collaborate together. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to stop the observations. The students could not continue the observations themselves. However, I did find another victory close to my home. I used to share the information with the students, and the students were involved by doing research, as Lenka said. They did research on the fig tree. They also learned new words, how to label the fig tree using Maltese, English, and Hebrew, since we were collaborating with Israel. And also they tried cooking some recipes using the fruit of the fig tree, using figs. And it was really a successful, I think, project, because even then we met online. We concluded this project through an online meeting where the students from Malta and from Israel, they shared their discoveries.
Thank you, Ramona.
We link the science with globe, with the culture and traditions from our country and from Israel as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona.
Yeah, that's great. That reminds me a little bit about our webinar we had several months ago with Finn Rautenbach from South Africa, who was talking about the scientific, cultural, historical significance of the baobab tree in Australia, in South Africa. But he was talking all about that. So that's one of the aspects that we like to do about the campaign. Of course, we're going to focus on the science of the observations and measurements we take, but there's always that amazing historical, cultural ways to understand the trees better and what it means in your local area, your regional area, all the way to how this is represented globally. So thank you both so much, Lenka and Ramona, for that discussion. That's great stuff. And Peter, do you see any more in there?
I did not, but I do have a question.
All right.
Actually, one other comment from Desh. She just want to say a great leadership to Dana, Bara, and Lenka. My question is, how many countries are involved in the European Phenology program? And you guys are doing a great job of collaborating with each other as well.
Thank you, Peter, and greetings to Desh as well. I will definitely pass the greetings to Dana and Bara, who are not talking today, but they are part of the campaign. They are the organization team as well. So I should greet all of you from them. And we have about 15 countries. Usually right now it's 15 countries this autumn, and usually it's about 14, 15 countries involved in the campaign. So it's actually quite diverse group, and I'm really happy for that because like that students can really compare the data between really different parts of Europe. So there are countries from very south, like Malta or Israel or Croatia, and they can compare their results with countries from north, like Lithuania, for example, or Poland. So the conditions there are quite different, and it makes it more interesting to see the diversity of the results.
Thank you, Lenka. Okay, Brian, I think I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, so we're going to finish up now with Dorian Janney. She's going to talk about the story mapping that she's been working on. This is related to trees and potential student research. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. I'm going to pop open the presentation again.
Very good. Thank you, Brian.
Let me go to this first slide here. All right. You see that okay, Dorian?
I see it. Yep. Thank you so
right.
much. Appreciate it. This is a really nice way to finish this off, because as we're all talking and we're all sharing information about what we're doing and how we're doing it, we're telling our stories. And the fact that we are a group that comes together from all over the world and that we're looking at trees and trying to better understand the trees in our local neighborhood and then share that with each other, what a great way to be able to use a tool like story maps. So I started seeing some of these story maps coming along, and I thought, wow, I really like the look of these. It's kind of like PowerPoint, but it's a change from just doing the PowerPoint slides. So I thought it would be neat to share with you some of the things that I learned in one of the story maps that I made, in hopes that some of you will start making your own story maps, make them about trees, send them to me and to Brian, and then we will feature some of them in our upcoming webinars. So let's see if I go to the next slide. Great. So here you can show us your school and your community. Take us on a tour of the trees in your region. Show us globe measurements that are variables like temperature, precipitation, land cover. All those are really important for the kind of trees you have and whether the trees are greening up, greening down. Show us some of your NASA data sets. I'm happy to show you how to get to the GPM precipitation data. Brian can help you get to the SNAP soil moisture data. Of course, looking at the ISAT-2 tree canopy data, looking at Landsat data. So a lot of these different data can be used in correlation with the data that you're collecting with the trees tool and looking at the trees, you know, in your neighborhood. Show us how climate is impacting the trees in your region. So when you make a story map, or if you want to get you have some questions about the story map, shoot it my way and let me know, and I'll be happy to help you out with as best I can. I'm doing this too, and it took me. All right, next slide. So with these Esri story maps, they're fairly easy to make unless you just really have, it's something you want to make happen and you work with it a lot. It's a free account and they're easy to share. You can see them on cell phones. You can share them through all kinds of different social media. They're interactive and include different types of social media. So now we'll go ahead and click on this link, and then
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and then do you want to share the link, Dorian? Can you do that on your share screen side?
You know, I can. The only thing, Brian, I'd need you to do is put the link in the chat, because
yeah, that's what I'm going to do that right now. The link
Awesome.
is in the chat right now. Whoever wants to go on there and follow.
Perfect. Yes, that's a good way to do it. And then let me go to share screen and share, and then bring up a new tab and copy and paste that in, and let's see if this works. Then once I open this up, Brian, I just need you to tell me on your end if you're seeing my story map.
I don't see it yet.
Okay, so let me come back over here and make sure I'm sharing my screen.
Oh, there you go. I see myself.
How are we doing now?
Looks good.
All righty, guys. So here, my trees, introducing story maps using my trees. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to show you a short video. I just used my smartphone. I took the video, then I put it onto, YouTube. Once you have a YouTube link, then it's really easy to insert it into your story map. So the words here, I wanted to share the trees in my front yard with you using a story map format. I've enjoyed seeing this way of telling the story and figured it would be a great opportunity to learn how to make a story map myself. You can make a story map to submit with your IVSS report. They've now changed that with Globe, where it doesn't have to be a video. Instead, it could be a story map. So what a great way to kind of get in there and give it a try. So let me show you the trees in my...
Good morning from Damascus, Maryland. I'm going to take you on a quick tour of some of the trees in my front yard, whom I'm going to introduce you to. So we're going to walk over here. And this first one we have named Zach. And Zach is actually a brandy wine maple. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Over here, this tree we have named Emma. And Emma is a red maple. We're going to learn a little more about her. We're going to skip some of these littler ones which we've planted and come over here to this tulip poplar named Tippy. She's got a little bit of brown rust on her right now, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her. Way down there is a sugar maple, and doesn't have a name yet. And then over here and over here, these are two sycamore trees. I'll tell you a little bit more about them. And we're going to finish up our tour with a hackberry tree. Let me just walk over to my friend, the hackberry tree, who is beginning to lose some of its leaves. So those are the trees that I'm going to be introducing you to. All right, let's come inside and learn a little more about them.
All right, so then I just kind of slide down here. And then to make my story map, I began by considering three things. And this I learned just by going in and learning about how to make a story map. First thing, identify your target audience. So, who are you doing this for? Define your key takeaways. What do you want them to learn as a result of seeing or interacting with your story map? And then create a content inventory. And I'll show you those steps. Here, I'm not going to go into it, but when you open the story map, you can click there and it will take you to the Esri How to Create a Story Map. So the target audience for today is my Globe family, all of you who are considering investigating trees this year. My key takeaways, I wanted to demonstrate some considerations to make when making a story map, share some information about the trees in my front yard, create a few maps to help you understand more about the trees in my front yard, and then because I support the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission at NASA, I'm going to show you the precipitation data for my front yard. So one thing I want to show you that's kind of neat here, so I'm in Maryland, and I can go in nice and close, and I can just take you a little bit closer here, oops, and show you, I thought I could, where I live. So that's kind of a neat thing again with the story maps is that you're able to, to do that and just within the story map feature show where you're located. And come on down here. So content inventory, that means I look at what are some of the different multimedia components I can bring together to share this story. So I thought, okay, well, some are my tree height measurements for these trees. I meant to also do some land cover, and I just didn't get around to it, but I'll add that another time because I can keep adding to this. Tree identification information, because I wanted to identify the kinds of trees I have. Maps taking the viewer to my location like I just did. GPM data from my location, and then NDVI information for my area, and I'll show you that in a second here. So welcome to my yard, and so here I took another kind of a map, one that's showing us more of the, let's see if I can come over here too. One that's showing us some different information than just the kind of political boundaries. In this case, we're looking more at a topographical map. So I'm going to take you in close to where I live, and that way it kind of gives you a feel for understanding the area. It's mostly suburban, so I'm over here in Damascus. You can see we have some parks and some nice big forested areas nearby. And one of the interesting things about where I live is that it used to be all farms. And as a matter of fact, there still are a lot of farms in this area. So let me scroll down and tell you, my home was built on a former farm. There was one beautiful big 80-year-old maple tree. It was a Norwegian maple. And unfortunately, about 10, 15 years after I lived there, it just kind of fell apart a week after this derecho that we had. And then we kept waiting to plant more trees and not being able to decide on what to plant. Well, finally, we bought a couple of maples in 2017, and then we transplanted some more trees from my husband's mother's home. She had some extra little seedlings, and we put them in our yard. And then we were really lucky. There's an organization called Shade Montgomery, and you can learn more about it by clicking that link. And what they do is they want to decrease the amount of solar light or solar insulation, isolation that's coming down, so to make houses cooler without using air conditioning. So they have a opportunity where you can have them plant shade trees in your yard. So we had them plant shade trees, and we got lots of really nice different trees. So this is one, and this is the Globe Observer information that I got. Now this one is looking at the Brandywine maple. And so here you can see it's about 4 meters 77, almost 5 meters tall. You can see where it's located and go in there and see the picture. And let me come back over here. And it turns out I did not realize this about my Brandywine maple. It's a seedless male variety. So one of the things is, of course, I couldn't use it to have more trees grow, but it's kind of cool because it doesn't drop all the little seedlings. It's fast growing. It's a great shade tree, prefers a deep, rich, moist soil that's well drained. Where we live, it's pretty much a rocky soil, but fairly well drained. And then here, a little information about precipitation. It needs a moderate amount of water on a regular basis. Add supplemental water if you don't have enough rainfall. And the mature height will be about 11 to 15 meters, 30 to 50 feet. And right now, as you saw, it's only like less than 5 meters. So, but we only planted it 3 years ago and it was pretty small. And if you wanted to learn more information about that kind of tree, you could have it there. Then we have our red maple. I don't know why we name trees, but when we first had our 2 new trees, we thought, oh, wouldn't that be nice to name them? This one's a little bit smaller, about 4.5 meters, also known as a swamp water or soft maple. It's one of the most common deciduous trees, whoops, I spelled that wrong, in Eastern and Central North America. Can get up to about 27 to 38 meters. So boy, that's going to be quite the tall tree there. The largest red living maple, I thought this was neat, is 125 feet and is in Michigan. It's tolerant of both flooding and drought, which is nice. In my location, we usually get an average, and I'll show you this coming up soon, of about 4 inches of precipitation a month. So generally we're in pretty good shape. It's used for the production of maple syrup. That'd be kind of neat if I learned how to do that. And Native Americans used the red maple bark as a wash for inflamed eyes and for cataracts, and as a remedy for hives and muscle aches. So little did I know when I got that tree. We have 2 young, and I'm not going to go through all the trees. This is the last one I'll go through. We have 2 young American sycamore trees, also known as, well, that's their, that of course is their scientific name. I know that when I am in Europe, I've often seen plane trees, and I didn't realize that these are the American plane tree. They're native to my area, as are the other trees that we planted, and they're easily distinguished by their mottled bark. And the reason it's mottled, I thought this was so interesting, is it lacks the elasticity of other types of bark. So all kinds of cool things that I learned when I did a little research on some of these friends that I've had in my front yard that I just didn't know much about. It'll grow to be about 30 to 40 meters, so another couple of really tall trees. Our yard right now is very sunny. In 10 years, it will be a nice shady yard. And the wood on these trees is used for timber, butcher blocks, boxes, and crates, and some furniture and musical instruments. And again, you can learn more at that link. So in finishing up here, the kinds of trees that you're going to have in your location is going to be dependent upon many factors. One of those factors is how much precipitation you get. So the mission that I support, GPM, is a joint NASA-Japanese international constellation that measures how much precipitation is falling from the clouds onto the ground. And because of these other satellites that are in orbit that are also collecting data and sharing it through the GPM Core Observatory, we can get new measurements every 30 minutes. So here I went and did the seasonal data. So looking over 3 months for my location. You can do this yourself. The directions are here. And basically you just enter your longitude and latitude into Giovanni, which is a free program. So here on the bottom, I'm looking at years. So this is a 20-year period. And this green line here, I can come over here and see, that's showing me the summer months, June, July, and August. And as you can see, our precipitation, we get precipitation all year long at my location. You know, some seasons we get a lot more than we do other seasons. So we have, you know, sometimes a little bit of what we would call drought. It's nowhere near as bad as drought in other places. But certainly when we don't have much precipitation, we have these big 5-gallon buckets we fill them with water and we have some holes in them and we put them by the trees so that they can slowly drip and make sure that our trees have enough water. I have an automated weather station in my yard and I have a rain gauge. So I use those to keep track of whether or not we've had that 5 inches of water that I think is important. And I've heard from the arborists who planted our trees to ensure they have enough water. And then the last data set I wanted to show you is one that Peter Nelson recommends. And that is, you can go into Worldview, and here you can have the direct link there, and look at the NDVI, which stands for Normalized Difference Vegetation Index. And so in this case, I can just kind of go in. It does take a little while to render, but I can go in for my location, and you can of course do this for your location. It's lucky I'm over here by the Chesapeake Bay where I live. So that's a nice little landmark that even when I don't have the streets and stuff on here or the political boundaries, I can see pretty easily. So just kind of giving you a close look at where I live. You see we have a lot of green, a lot of vegetation here. And like I say, where I live up in this area here was primarily wooded area and also farms. So my friends, that is my story map for you. I'm going to stop sharing. And I hope that this has gotten you excited about potentially doing, doing a story map and telling us about the trees in your area.
Thank you so much, Dorian. What an awesome tool to use for this. Yeah, what a great tool. And Dorian has done a great job in, learning how to do the story maps. And, she's, done several of them, like for the one you just saw about for GPM, so lots of great stuff there. So she's definitely the go-to person for if you have any ideas or questions about story maps, feel free to reach out to Dorian at the email she provided. Dorian, just want to pop that email again in the chat so people see that.
Yep.
And are there any other final questions for the webinar? Because of course we went over the hour time, we always do, and because there's always so much great information.
And I look forward to seeing some story maps. Send them my way. And they're, like I say, they're a little challenging when you get started because they can be a bit fiddly, and also because you get in there and you're like, oh, this is so cool. It's like being in a candy shop. You want to try everything. So get in there and mess with it. And I know students, you guys are just so great at being able to get in there with technology. I'm an old lady, so I kind of get in there and it takes me a little longer. So if I can do it, I know you can do it. Looking forward to seeing some.
All right, so if I don't see any questions here, so I just want to thank everyone, especially the Lenka and her team at the European Phenology Campaign for the presentation, as well as the students from the 2 schools in the Czech Republic. Thank you so much for the great presentations. Thank you to the teachers, the other teachers, the students, researchers, citizen scientists who have joined this webinar as well. Our next webinar will be announced soon. It's going to be in November, of course, and it's going to focus on carbon cycle and carbon. So stay tuned for that. You'll get an email with that information, and stay tuned. You're going to get an email pretty soon for this recording to go take a look at it on the webinar page for our campaign on the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign website on Globe. If there's nothing else, thank you all again, and I will end the webinar now.